But I'm excited for
They got the really good stuff.
Yes.
Oh, you're eating water bottle.
I love that too. But I didn't have my hand sanitizer.
Christine, are we ready? Yeah, ready.
We will now call this meeting to order. It is in person. Public access is being provided by live streaming the meeting on PRTC's YouTube channel. This information was on PRTC's website, Facebook page, at the Transit Center, as well as being advertised in Inside Nova and the Freelance Star. Commissioner Lawson has asked to participate in this meeting remotely. That won't be necessary. And so now we will move into invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Can we please all stand, bow our heads. Well, thank you for the opportunity to join together once more. We ask that you just keep us safe and that we may govern the community with pride, and Lord, that we just make the best decisions possible. Thank you for our transportation employees, and thank you for the work that they do. And we ask that you please keep them safe. In our Father's name we pray, amen.
Amen.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Our pledge of allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
No, I appreciate that. All right, Christine, will you please call the roll?
Victor Angry.
Here.
Andrea Bailey. Here. Kenny Bodie.
Present.
Margaret Franklin.
Present.
Janine Lawson. Yesley Vega.
Here.
Pete Canlin. Maggie Hansford. Kalai Kandasamy. Kim Short. Benny Smith. Ann Wheeler. Tanisha Allen. Cindy Lamb. Here. Meg Bumpy.
Here.
Thomas Cone. Pamela Sadesky.
Here.
Ralph Smith. Jeanette Rischel.
Here.
Preston Banks. Alana Mensing. Daryl Moore. Matthew Kelly. Jason Graham. Deborah Frazier.
Here.
Gary Skinner.
Here.
Tim McLaughlin. David Ross. Jennifer Mitchell. Jennifer DeBrule. Todd Horsley.
Here.
Lee Carter. Elizabeth Guzman.
Here.
George Parker.
Here.
Madam Chair, we do have a quorum.
We will now move into item 4, approval of the agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Second.
Moved by Supervisor Bodie, seconded by Supervisor Bailey. Any discussion? Christine, will you please call the roll?
Victor Angry.
Aye.
Andrea Bailey.
Aye.
Kenny Bodie.
Aye.
Margaret Franklin.
Aye.
Yesley Vega.
Aye.
Kim Short. Cindy Lamb.
Aye.
Meg Bumpy.
Aye.
Pamela Sadesky.
Aye.
Jeanette Rischel.
Yes.
Deborah Frazier.
Aye.
Gary Skinner.
Aye.
Todd Horsley.
Yes.
Elizabeth Guzman.
Yes.
George Parker.
Aye.
Madam Chair, that resolution is approved.
We'll now move into item 5, approval of the minutes. Is there a motion?
So move, Madam Chair.
Second.
Moved by Supervisor Bailey, seconded by Supervisor Bodie. Any discussion? Christine, please call the roll.
Victor Angry.
Aye.
Andrea Bailey.
Aye.
Kenny Bodie.
Aye.
Margaret Franklin.
Aye.
Yesley Vega.
Aye.
Cindy Lamb.
Aye.
Meg Bumpy.
Aye.
Pamela Sadesky.
Aye.
Jeanette Rischel.
Yes.
Deborah Frazier.
Aye.
Gary Skinner.
Aye.
Todd Horsley.
Yes.
Elizabeth Guzman.
Yes.
George Parker. Aye. Madam Chair, that resolution is approved.
We will now move into item 6, the VRE CEO's time. Mr. Belton, all you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good evening, Commission members and others. You have the VRE CEO report for July and August in your packet. And so let me just give you just a real quick recap of the summer, June, July, August. System-wide, our on-time performance still remained in the low 80%, around 82%, 83%, primarily due to congestion, weather, and other issues as freight, passenger, and VRE service increased during this time. Our overall system-wide total ridership is still down compared to pre-COVID, about 85%. Since May, total ridership though has increased about 50%, along with average daily ridership. As new challenges with the return to work in this region have emerged, We anticipate ridership to continue to increase post Labor Day, but not at a pace that we previously anticipated. So, or at a slower pace than we previously anticipated. Our staff continue to work primarily from remote work environments, as our own return to work plans have been stalled as well. So overall, the health and welfare of the staff and our contracted service providers is strong, and we continue to maintain a continuity of operations, and all business functions are operating effectively. That's in my report, Madam Chair. We do have some action items though here as well.
Are there any questions for Mr. Dalton? Okay, we'll now move into item 6.2. Is it possible, or is there any objection for consolidating items 6.2 through 6.5? Any objections? So then, Mr. Dalton, will you please go through each of those?
I will go through each one of those. Yes, Madam Chair. 6.2, we're seeking authorization for the Chief Executive Officer to amend the Norfolk Southern Operating Access and the Amtrak Access and Storage Agreements. Specifically, the amendments are to incorporate what we refer to as our post-acquisition service changes, or service level changes, schedule changes to both Manassas Line and Fredericksburg Line trains in your packet. You have the entire service plan in there. All we're talking about is basically the base service plan, base weekday service plan that's in that packet. And similar to our other two operating access agreements, CSX and the Virginia Passenger Rail Authority, where those service plans and those post-acquisition schedules have already been amended in those agreements. So that's 6.2. 6.3, we're seeking authorization for the CEO to amend agreements with the Virginia Passenger Rail Authority and with CSX Transportation to include the Potomac Shore Station. Within those two agreements, we have master lease agreements, and now that we're at the point we're effectively 100% design, hopefully going out to construction for the parking garage November-ish, maybe as early as November, and for the station as early as January of 2022. We need to memorialize the footprint of the station platform in the railroad's right of way. So that's what that with 6.3. 6.4, seeking authorization for the CEO to execute a purchase agreement and memorandum of understanding with the Department of the Navy. And this has to do with some property on or around the Quantico station. So up on the screen, I'll just highlight, if I could, if you want to follow me here real quick. For the purchase agreement, I'm referring to this little sliver of land right here, okay? It's approximately 5,300 square feet. And as you can see, it's sandwiched in between two parcels that the Marine Corps Base Quantico already owns. It's essentially of no use to us, but the Marine Corps Base Quantico has a parking garage project that sits adjacent to that area right there. So they've offered to purchase that from the commissions. We do have a purchase of sale agreement that's attached to the amendment here. And the fair market value price is determined by BRE, was accepted, I believe $18,000 for the property, accepted by the Navy. So that's the purchase agreement right there. The MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, contemplates these other parcels, and I'll just quickly walk through. If you go up to the left, where it's labeled over Martin Street, there's approximately 0.22 acres right there. And then if you go to the right, and that's property that the commissions own, okay? Go to the right, and it's highlighted in blue, there's approximately 0.22 acres there. It's being contemplated that we just swap those properties. In other words, the commissions can hand over to the Marine Corps base our 0.22 acres, and we take on their 0.22 acres. As you can see, in that diagram. It's adjacent to our surface parking lot, so there may be an opportunity there to add some spaces. The Marine Corps base wants that triangle piece over Martin Street strictly for security purposes. There is a road that goes underneath that and underneath the railroad. So they've always had interest in this parcel. We've just now gotten to the point where we could entertain that thought. And then there's a couple other parcels at top that are adjacent to our Quantico Station Improvement Project, that within the MOU, we want to further the process on, developing either an easement or even an exchange or purchase fee simple. So that's what that agreement's about. And then 6.5, we're seeking approval to amend our financial and debt management principles. And as you know, previously we have entered into a funding agreement with the Virginia Passenger Rail Authority, and part of that funding agreement, that funding agreement contemplates us doing a debt issuance to help support right-of-way acquisition and some projects as part of transforming rail in Virginia. BRE, or the commissions, have a debt and financial management principle policy. We've had one in place for 2013, but it didn't contemplate the use of CROC funds to service a debt issuance. So just simply updating those debt management principles to accommodate a potential debt issuance using CROC as a revenue stream. Glad to answer any questions on any of those.
Any questions for Mr. Dalton or comments? Supervisor Bailey?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick comment. Mr. Dalton, thank you for reporting out on 6.3. Really appreciate your efforts and Steve's efforts in making sure that this came to fruition. I know this has been a discussion for years, and answer to the commander's prayer as he segued out of his position. So we appreciate you reporting out on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, motion to approve 6.2 through 6.5.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Skinner, seconded by Supervisor Bailey. Are there any questions or discussion? Christine, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Angry,
Aye.
Andrea Bailey,
Aye.
Penny Bodie,
Aye.
Margaret Franklin. Aye. Leslie Vega.
Aye.
Kim Short.
Aye.
Cindy Lamb.
Aye.
Meg Bunky.
Aye.
Pamela Stavisky.
Aye.
Jeanette Rischel.
Yes.
Deborah Frazier.
Aye.
Gary Skinner.
Aye.
Todd Horsley.
Yes.
Elizabeth Guzman.
Yes.
George Barker.
Aye.
Madam Chair, that resolution is approved.
Thank you, Mr. Dalton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Everybody stay safe and healthy.
We'll now move into item 7, public comment time. Christine, are there any comments?
Yes, there is one comment. Please consider the following public comment. With plans for over 2,600 dwelling units making their way through the Prince William County planning process at the future Innovation Town Center next to the George Mason SciTech campus, I am concerned by the lack of transit options that will be available to new residents. Providing shuttles to the Broad Run and/or Manassas VRE stations is not sufficient and will continue to foster car dependency. I encourage OmniRide to partner with George Mason University to provide frequent, reliable transit options between Innovation Town Center and Vienna Metro/City of Fairfax and the George Mason Fairfax campus, while capitalizing on the I-66 Express Lanes investment. And there's a map included with that. This recommended service is similar to what has been provided by George Mason before the pandemic, and there's a schedule included with the comment. OmniRide needs to enhance this service by creating all-day 15 to 20-minute headways to help develop Innovation Town Center as a true destination location for the county. To have any chance of meeting local, state, and federal climate goals, we need to develop communities that reduce car dependency and provide frequent, reliable transit options. And that is signed from, as I scroll down, Mark Schufler, Prince William County resident.
We'll now move into item 8. Approval of the consent agenda. There are no discussion items, and just our regular financial report, as well as 8.3 authorization to for trash removal services for PRTC maintenance, bus shelters, and bus stops.
Move approval, Madam Chair.
Second.
Any discussion? Christine, will you please call the roll?
Victor Angry,
Aye.
Andrea Bailey,
Aye.
Penny Bodie,
Aye.
Margaret Franklin,
Aye.
Yesli Vega,
Aye.
Kim Short, Cindy Lamb,
Aye.
Meg Bunky,
Aye.
Pamela Sabeski,
Aye.
Jeanette Rischel,
Yes.
Deborah Frazier,
Aye.
Gary Skinner,
Aye.
Todd Horsley,
Yes.
Elizabeth Guzman, George Barton.
Aye.
Madam Chair, that resolution is approved.
Okay, actually, was that 8.2?
That was the consent agenda.
Okay, the entire 8.2 and 8.3. Okay. We'll now move into item 9, executive director's time.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. COVID-19, first up, much as Rich described, we're going through very similar circumstances. One thing that is distinct is the Transportation Safety Administration has extended the mask mandate for all transit vehicles and transit facilities from September 13th to January 18th. We continue to enforce this mainly through requesting cooperation, doing alerts in the community, signage, et cetera, as the health and safety of our frontline essential employees is paramount, and that's where our focus is being placed. We've had no confrontations, and part of that is as more and more businesses and facilities have required the mask mandate back, it has assisted the transit systems in Northern Virginia. We are maintaining our current vehicle and facility cleaning schedule, but with the Delta variant growth, I took the additional step and directed all admin staff to begin maximum telework for at least a 3-week period. This began approximately 2 weeks ago. All non-essential in-person activities have been postponed. You heard that Rich still has the majority of personnel working from home. We started to pull back in. With the Delta variant growing, we've pushed back out. Continuity of operations, still running strong. The safer we keep the environment for our essential workers, the better off we are. From a staffing standpoint, there's a current vacancy in the org chart for our Director of Grants and Project Management. I will be reclassifying the position as a Chief Financial Officer and subdividing a few of the duties to other staff who've expressed interest and opportunity for growth and development. I do not anticipate any additional headcount for the organization directly related to this, and the emphasis will remain on fiscal planning and accountability. From the service standpoint, you have, for the first time, a new ridership dashboard in your packet. I just want to pull that up very briefly. And just so you can see, it's in your packet. Very bright, very colorful, but it breaks down some of the key terminology along with all the different routes. Gives a breakdown of what's generally serving where inside Prince William County, and then by service type, route performance, and we even go so far as to describe weather, events, things such as Independence Day, or if we have extremely bad weather, and the number of service days. And then we break down a monthly ridership data sheet by express, local, and Metro Express services, including individualized performance in those key categories, percent of ridership, and by service forward. So it's a great resource tool for you. It's always in your packet. We keep all of these packets on the website. So if you're ever wondering moving forward, if you're wondering what ridership was, it's always a resource for you to go to. We have our safety dashboard on there as well. We've had that for about 2 years. We were really close to having this done, but we've been pandemicking for about the past 18 months. And so focus has been on recarving services pretty frequently. We've now got back to a point where we can get some of those items addressed and moving forward. Despite the rising Delta variant, our ridership has remained steady throughout August, which is a good sign. So where we had really nice climb in June and July, we thought August was going to be kind of a watershed point for us, but as we've all discovered, things are very much in a static mode, and that's good for us. We haven't seen the decline. Our budget and service model expected a slow return to begin after Labor Day through Halloween, and so we've maintained our ability to be flexible with operations, and we can add additional trips when needed. So we remain very budget conscious and very service conscious. Our next service change begins on September 27th, so a little over 3 weeks away. Again, targeted for that growth of people returning back to the office to hit that midpoint. Hopefully that will coincide with that. especially as mandatory vaccine or testing requirements take effect among the various public agencies and companies, and we'll continue to watch ridership and prepare adjustments as necessary. So we hit not just ridership needs, but also budget targets. On a facility standpoint, thank you for those who were able to attend the ribbon cutting out in Manassas. It was a great time, beautiful building. Operations and maintenance group desperately needed to give us some breathing room here. And also served the growing western part of the county with I-66 construction. As some of you heard, we had a lightning strike the night before. So we lost air conditioning. We almost didn't have power the day of, but the team did a great job pulling it together. We've identified a consultant group through our risk management firm, through our insurance, and they're going to provide us some resources so we can try to identify what our power needs are. We'd already reached out to Prince William County Schools to get some guidance there from the standpoint of having a large campus like that. What type of power demands, lightning rods, things like that. So we continue to work through that to ensure we protect the facility. And that's a beautiful building. And then, this room looks really, really great because we've been able to put in new carpet and new furniture. But as you walk through the facility, you will see this building's been around for about 20, 25 years, and it shows. So we're going to be identifying funds to perform upgrades here at this facility to ensure we have adequate furniture, adequate resources, supply, as well as a positive environment so people can enjoy their post-COVID employment as well. Finally, before I turn things to Ms. Murdoch, I wanted to point out there's a car-free day bingo card in your packet that Cheryl will describe a little bit more about that in her time. I'm glad some of you were able to enjoy the taco truck a couple of weeks ago. It was delicious. The pork belly was amazing for those who had it. We openly wept. Well, we could not eat more. It was delicious. That was organized by Althea Evans and our marketing team, who was did a great job pulling off the groundbreaking, but is also doing all of the 35-year anniversary activities. And this month she celebrates 25 years with OmniRide and joins the ranks of our finance director, Joyce Embry, and Kim Pittner, our transportation support associate, in being 25-year employees. There's only 3 in the history of the organization. So she's in the building watching. Please join in celebrating the accomplishments. All the graphics you see, et cetera, really has been an evolution over the past few years, and has done a great job. And Ms. Murdoch?
Good evening, commissioners. As Bob says, we've had a really busy summer. And just want to thank you again with Bob for many of you who came out to share with the hot dog day, taco truck, the ribbon cutting. It means a lot to the team members when they get to meet you, shake your hand, get a picture taken with you, and they talk about it. So thank you for that support over the summer. So as we go into the fall, as Bob says, with the new service changes coming in late September, we started this week putting up the bid pick. That's where the operators decide exactly what runs they want for the fall, for the next 6 months. So the pick is on September 13th, and that's what we're working on. Over the last month, we also had corporate training on safety issues, federally mandated training about safety management system, how we perform under safety events. We had a debriefing also with the Prtc leadership on the Pentagon incident and how we responded. What could we have done better? We responded, I think, pretty well, Bob. I think you agree that we all worked well on that incident together, but we always are trying to do better. We also had active shooter training going on as well here, as well as TSA put 8 bags on our buses, and our operators found 6 of them. And this is a test to see if you can detect a bomb. So we're great with that, because the first time we did it when we got here, they did the same thing and our operators only found 2. So the fact that we got 6 out of 8, we're getting a lot better at that. And like most transit agencies, we are looking for bus drivers and having a hard time kind of finding them. On my way here, I passed Garfield, and they got this big school bus out there with an ad on it saying, looking for bus drivers. We're competing with all the transit agencies in the area for the same pool of candidates. So our goal is to help meet the service change by the late September. We need 15 drivers. We've got 5 coming out of training, 5 that we're about to hire, and so I've got 5 more to hire. So if you have any relatives interested in being a bus driver, please send them to us. We talked about if we don't get them soon enough, do we offer incentive bonuses to get them to come to work for us? That has a double-edged sword because other people get mad who were here already and didn't get the bonus. So we're gonna work to try to get those last 5 drivers brought in. We're also have hired 2 new road supervisors, 2 new maintenance supervisors, as well as assistant maintenance manager at Manassas. We continue to work on our 22 budget. We're installing drive cams on the buses. And we're, the big thing we're trying to put in place is our visualization room. This is going to be a room where we can bring you all and show you what our key performance indicators are. How well are we doing on time? What our absenteeism look like? And we're hoping to have that up here in Woodbridge and Manassas by October 1. So we have a lot going on for the fall, and just again, thank you for your support.
Any questions for Dr. Schneider or Ms. Murdoch? Mr. Skinner?
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Bob, you were looking, did you say for a director of operations? Well, you had 2 places you're gonna fill for staffing when you started that?
Chief Financial Officer.
2 financial officers.
Yes, Chief, sorry.
I didn't hear properly.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, that's it. They're all doing with finance.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Madam Chair. Ms. Besky and then Ms. Vega.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Dr. Schneider, I knew that there was a public hearing on August the 25th in Manassas. Unfortunately, I was not able to attend. Could you give us any kind of briefing on any, how many people attended, what some of the questions or discussion might have been?
Certainly. We'll give a more robust presentation when we bring everything back.
Right.
We're still
Let's
having
do one
some
more.
more public meeting, exactly. Primary concern is a reminder that this is about the micro transit proposal. It's very low ridership on a particular route. We're trying to figure out a way to deploy the same resources, but get more people on board the vehicle, give better access. One gentleman came who very, very adamant, very supportive that the route should not change. He loves it the way it is. It's working perfect for him, which is wonderful. He gave credit to the staff. The ridership now in that entire area is higher than it was pre-pandemic. So that's great, but that route is still underperforming, which means we have ways to go. But for that gentleman, it works really, really, really well. Unfortunately, it clearly doesn't work for the large population of the community. So a lot of the concerns were about how does it meet his individualized needs for his trip focus. That was his concern. And then another woman came. It's similar type situations, or how are you going to solve problem X, problem Y? And staff took some of that feedback, and they're going to make some minor adjustments to other routes that may serve some of those needs. So we're taking that feedback and tooling that. Then there were 1, 2, 3 other people from the public that were present. 2 spoke in favor. One gentleman was there who just listened, and then we had a bus operator who was there and listened and made no comment. So our focus is taking that feedback and just hearing that information and trying to identify what we can do to meet those needs. So we think we have some solutions that'll make it, recognizing that if it's really, really, really working well for you, you don't want it to change. And we totally, completely respect that. And it was a good dialogue and conversation. So about an hour long.
So I know like about a year and a half, 2 years ago, pre-pandemic, when you changed the Manassas route, when we changed some of the stops, you had public hearings that we did that again, and there were people, the same kind of problem, that changing it for them became a problem, though it helped others. And I think you did some of that same kind of thing, tried to problem solve for them, how we might be able to help them. So, I'm glad to hear that, and I hope to be the one that's in Manassas Park and going forward. Do we have any feedback from staff, from the bus drivers themselves at all about any of the changes? Changes are hard for some people.
Right.
I mean, I get that.
Yeah. Not yet. We are doing some outreach there as well. So we just haven't reached that phase of that. But our planning department will be getting feedback from the operators that serve the route.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Supervisor Vega.
Thank you, Madam Chair. What are the reasons for the bus driver shortage? Is it COVID related, pay related?
Kind of all of the above. From the standpoint, it's very similar to the labor shortage. We had a labor shortage prior to COVID in the transit industry, in that especially here, we're predominantly commuter. So we have very big peaks. So you might start your morning at 5 in the morning and work for 3.5 hours, and then have a 5-hour gap in between, and then finish your day. So that means you might have to spend 12 to 14 hours to earn 8 hours pay. And that's a big challenge. And it's really hard for some people to do that. So they love the idea. It's good competitive pay, but when you put good competitive pay against really difficult schedules, and it is seniority system. So it's the person who's been here the longest is number 1 on the list. The second longest is 2 on the list. The person that just got hired is last on the list. And so that's a lot of enthusiasm when you get here. But then when you look at truck driver training or, commercial vehicle, we will train them and get them ready, and then they can get a competitive job delivering, in a tractor trailer. And now it might be over the road, but at least it's consistent work. They don't have to spend as much time. It has historically been, especially now, with the labor market the way it is, just a national challenge. We're better off than a lot of transit systems in the country in that they saw turnover in 40 and 50% ranges when COVID hit, especially in large cities, because of just the fear and the exposure. We never closed. So for a lot of employees, that fear of, hey, I have no idea who's getting on my bus, they're not wearing a mask, I'm in this fishbowl exposed. A lot of people left the transit industry for that purpose, just like they left a large number of that. And there's just not that push to come back in terms of transit.
Thank you.
Supervisor Bailey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Excuse me, I just had 3 quick points. First of all, I just want to thank Dr. Bob and Ms. Murdoch for the momentum that I see that you're creating continually during COVID. I think it's important, and I think it's the momentum also builds morale with employees. So I think that's very critical in what we're going through. So I just want to let you know that we recognize that and we appreciate that. And I also want to say to you, Dr. Bob, the report you gave about the hiring opportunities that you have and hiring within and promoting within, that helps also in managing your funds and managing during COVID. So I just want to recognize that that's important from an HR perspective. And then lastly, I also want to say that I thought was very cute, but very telling. It shows that you are both collaborating, making sure that this operation, the level of service is continued. I saw you sitting together outside there in the hallway before we came in, kibitzing before we came into the meeting. So collaboration is important. And so I just wanted to recognize that as well. So thank you, Madam Chair, for that.
Delegate Guzman, and then Supervisor Bodie.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, Dr. Schneider. I have a question about the public hearing. If you can report to us on what happened in the Dale City to the Mark Center public hearing that we had last week. What was the outcome?
No one attended, and I don't believe we have received any public comments through email, phone, et cetera. We will have all of that presented and available at the October meeting when staff brings it back. But we came for public hearing and no one attended. So we'll continue to do outreach to try to pull that data. Again, those routes have historically had lower ridership. And so it would be continuing to try to consolidate the services and provide that service out of Horner Road now that we have ample parking in that area.
And if you could tell us the forms of outreach that you do when these public hearings are conducted.
Certainly. So we hit all the usual suspects of social media, our website, newspapers, et cetera, but we also reach out to the localized governments, the offices for all the members of the city council, if it's in Manassas Park, Prince William County, share the information with the transportation office. We do press releases for Inside Nova, postings on board buses, postings on board shelters. We will frequently send staff to stand in line, especially if we're not getting any feedback. To go stand in line and talk to customers and explain the information, say, if you have anything, let us know. Very frequently, customers they get the information, they hear it and say, okay, I understand. So they don't really give us a positive or a negative or write anything down. We present their feedback to you unadulterated. But what we do is we take their feedback and concerns. Frequently we'll get the response of, oh, I completely understand why you're doing it, but can you make sure this and this are taken care of? And we take that feedback and we make those adjustments in the schedule. So that's our process. And when we present in August, they'll bring back not only what we heard, but what we started with and where we ended. And so you can see the evolution of changes we made to incorporate that feedback.
A follow-up, Madam Chair.
Yes.
When we're talking about social media, do we do any specific targeting or we just post it on the social, on the page for PRTC?
It varies depending on what it is. So if it's targeting a neighborhood, we may do a geographic ad buy. If it's generally just our website, but we also have the rider alerts. So we send out the rider alerts through your smartphone. I'm sure if you aren't signed up, you're probably getting them that lets you know about these public hearings. In addition, when customers do call in and ask questions about a route, we'll remind them that there is a potential change. If they have a question, we can explain it to them verbally. We just really try to get out as much information as we can to anyone who will listen. We'll even do announcements on board the vehicles with our automated annunciator. So as they come into the transit circle, our annunciators will announce information on the website. We'll also post all the information out front in the shelters, in the vestibule, as well as along the shelter area in the circle out front.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A comment. If we could partner with you as we represent that area, at least myself, and I believe Supervisor Angry and State Senator Jeremy McPike, we could always, send out to our, constituents list so they know about the service. And then the final question that I have, Madam Chair, is about vaccination requirements for the bus drivers. If that is in the conversation, are we requiring vaccinations for our bus drivers and for the new hires as well?
So right now we are not requiring that. We did an anonymous voluntary survey of, are you vaccinated, not vaccinated, or fully vaccinated, not fully vaccinated, or prefer not to answer? So we don't really care what your answer is. We just want to know what you're in. We don't care who it is. We just want to know what it is. And we're in the 90% range on the admin staff side. I believe
We're at 85% on the operator side, operating technician side.
so. With those large of a numbers, it's to mandate that at this stage doesn't really, without following lead from Prince William County government, there hasn't been a formal recommendation from the health district. We really do take the lead of what the local governments surrounding us are doing. Fairfax, Alexandria, et cetera, they may have their own approach, but we really do try to look locally and follow that tenor accordingly.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a final comment. As we are moving into going back to normal, many of the localities, including state government, we are requiring, if you are not vaccinated, to be tested weekly. So I would ask, Kilo and as well as PRTC, that as far as we are concerned of public health, to come up with a solution or plan on how to address those people who are unvaccinated. As we cannot force people, at least we have to protect the public as those that were gonna ride the bus. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Sure, and I'll just also say, kind of to that point, my concern has been our employees in the sense of interacting with the public. And so getting vaccinated is important, but also encouraging the public to be vaccinated helps to protect also our employees. So we'll continue to kind of monitor what the state is doing and try and trend in that direction. Supervisor Bodie?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. So a quick question and then a comment. The question is, we had the one constituent that spoke during public comment time mentioned the innovation small area plan, the town center that's being planned there. I know that's pretty far out in terms of our purposes here, but it begs the question on sort of what's in your mind and the other folks that are looking at projects like that, where it's going to be generally a very large game changer for the area, not only for development, but also that partnership with George Mason and our other institutions of higher learning. So can you just elaborate briefly on what your sort of big, broad picture of what that might look like in the long run and how we can maybe better partner with our institutions of higher learning?
So what's great about that project is that came out of small area plan study. And that was really the genesis that started 3 years ago, I think, maybe, or just, so we spent like full day design charrettes, multiple days, spending a lot of time talking about just those areas, including road network design, that pulls in Micron as part of the corridor, and how does all of that work in terms of university, industry, and city? So we've already developed variations of service based on what comes in, what kind of housing it is, who's going to be living there, will it be young professionals versus students? So all of those things blend into that plan. So that is a big part of what we do, and we work closely with Prince William County government on that. So they really keep us abreast of the development and the zoning and the opportunity. We've pre-drawn concepts and designs about what routes would look like, but that's just more a part of that process of working with the small area plans to understand what development would come. Now that we know we have residential coming, now we know what immediately flows from that is retail. And immediately flows from that is potential, service economy jobs. But where do they draw from, and how does that tie in terms of all the industrial development that's occurring on that Route 28 corridor? So there's some really great things happening, and we're paying close.
And I appreciate that, because I think all of us that are at least in the room from Prince William County, we have small area plans in our district. I know I have one, actually, and a half with Supervisor Angry that we share. And so as we go through building those out, we're having that collaborative mindset. And I know that our transportation department has been very hand in glove with you all. So I appreciate you teasing that out a little bit. My then comment, which is on a slightly different track, but to something that's Delegate Guzman said is, we know that now on the horizon is going to be the booster shots for the vaccine, and some of the other concerns about Delta variant, and eventually other rounds of vaccine charrettes and stuff like that. And while from my conversation with the state level folks in our health district, we're not ready to start talking about mass vaccination sites yet, I just want to put it on your radar that that's things that are being out there in the ecosystem. So I know we did a really good job making sure that as sites were announced, such as the Gander Mountain site, the Manassas Mall, that we made sure that we had routes already in place and really worked hand in glove with the health district, that we continue to work through that once we get more concrete plans of what the booster offerings look like.
And one thing I will share is each Monday I have a conference call with Senator Mark Warner's office. It's a Northern Virginia collective. Chair Wheeler's on that call, Chair Randall, we have representatives from Arlington, Fairfax, et cetera, et cetera. But most importantly, we get the health districts, we get the universities, we get the school systems, it's kind of everybody. And that really gives us an indication of what's coming. So as, for example, Manassas stood up their vaccine sites, we heard from the mayor what the vaccine circumstances are coming, heard direct from Chair Wheeler, we're able to respond. So as those plans get made, we hear immediately and then can turn around and push into those health districts and ask what are the specifics. And so hand in glove, our Director of Safety and Security, Byron Lloyd, works actively with the Emergency Operations Center, and that's been key. They're preparing and standing up all of those sites as well in coordination with the health district. So that close relationship we have has paid dividends over and over. And that's part of the feedback early on was, hey guys, when you do set these things up, please don't do it where we don't have a bus route.
Right.
Right. Please, even if we put in a special route, people won't know where it is. And so that's why sites like Gander Mountain were perfect, right along the route, key corridors, easy to communicate, easy to describe, and easy to see. And it worked out really well.
Thank you, Matt.
And we'll now move into item 11. We don't have any presentations and information. Item 11, PRTC bylaws amendments, second reading and adoption. If you all would remember, there have been changes in the General Assembly to electronic meetings, making it more flexible. So we're basically bringing our bylaws up to code, if you will, with what the General Assembly has done. So I'll turn it over to Sharon Pandak to kind of go into more detail.
That's correct, Madam Chair. What we did primarily was to deal with the issue with respect to remote attendance, both by individual members of the commission and then also remote meetings when there is an emergency. And so the changes to the bylaws that you approved to come forward to this meeting last time address those issues. They also address the what I call the emergency virtual meeting provisions by making them more succinct based on the state legislation. And then, as some of you already know from your other positions, the FOIA statute was changed to increase the number of personal meetings that one could have to be no more than 2 during the year or 25%. So, and in addition, with respect to what I call the medical exception, it applies not only if a member is personally having a medical issue, but also if they are a caretaker for someone who has medical issues.
Actually, is there a motion?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Moved by Supervisor Bailey, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Supervisor Bodie. Any questions or discussion?
I have a question, Madam Chair.
Delegate Guzman?
Yes, Council, when you make the decision to participate virtually, does it have to go to a vote or what it would be the process?
The process is one that can be determined locally with respect to remote attendance. And so as we were contemplating tonight, actually, that Supervisor Lawson might be participating remotely. You may recall that the chair asked if there was a motion before Dr. Snyder advised that Supervisor Lawson had decided that she could not attend, I believe. But she advised us in advance, both me and Ms. Rodrigo, and we made sure that there are arrangements made in order to have that happen. There is not a requirement to make arrangements if it, and usually it will be done, but every once in a while it's something goes wrong with the AV system or something else and you can't make a visual participation happen. You usually can make a phone participation happen. But again, there's got to be the capability for both the person who is participating remotely and the commission itself to hear that person. So the bylaws require that the commission actually approve the remote participation. That could be changed. You know, if the commission wanted to do it some other way by having either the chair or the clerk or somebody else approve that, but that's the one local thing that remains particular to the commission that addresses the kind of issues if Ms. Rodrigo said, oh my gosh, we simply can't make this happen technically, and the person still insisted on participating, that would allow the commission in that unlikely event. I think everybody is very cooperative on this entity to say yay or nay on participation. And if it requires the expenditure of additional funds, for example, to, then the commission can get into that issue. The medical ones are ones that, again, no limit on the number of meetings that can be missed for medical reasons, but the issue of the ability to participate still has to be within the realm of the commission, either directly or through one of its agents, so that it can be sure that that's the case. Otherwise, the person is simply absent. Does that explain it enough?
Yes, follow up, Madam Chair. I think the intention of the legislation was to increase participation and make it easy for people to participate. And there are unforeseen circumstances that could happen living in this area. So if you are coming from Richmond, if you are coming from Alexandria, and your intention is to show up in person, but unfortunately that could not happen. And then it was not voted in the prior session for that person to participate when it's your intention to participate and do your due diligence as a commissioner. So my question is, and to the chair and the commissioners, does it have to be voted? It could be an exception. I feel like we have to be prepared all the time. Schools are, my children are going with the laptop to school every day in case anything happens.
If I can speak to that, and then certainly Madam Chair and the rest of the commission may want to provide input. The vote as to whether or not to allow the participation is at the same meeting. So it's, obviously some things that come up can't be predicted by this group a month in advance.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing is that I suggest that there be someone who acts as the gatekeeper on this, because even though we all believe we're so technologically capable of doing this, it is possible let's say, for example, there were a thunderstorm, power went out, the commission decided that since most of you all were here and you had a quorum, you were gonna meet. But it wasn't physically possible to be able to connect that person in. So that's probably an extreme event, doesn't happen very often, but I will tell you that with respect to Supervisor Lawson participating tonight, there were efforts that had to be taken by Ms. Rodrigo and the IT staff in order to make that happen, because sometimes you don't know what the person has on the other end in terms of their ability to interact, or whether the particular facilities are available here. So I'd like to tell you that, yeah, everybody's very technologically proficient now, and it's not a problem to do it. But I think it is useful to have that gatekeeping function. And then in the event, again, none of you all would do this, that someone was exceeding their number of personal exceptions because they really decided to play hooky all year, then that would allow the commission to say, as opposed to putting that unfortunate burden on one of the staff, I don't mind doing it, but I think it's not, I think it's appropriately a commission move to say, no, sorry, you've done 10 of those meetings this year and we can't possibly get to 25% anyway. So, long explanation for where we are.
If I may say, obviously things do come up and, we'll try to be as accommodating as possible on the technology side. But I will say that it is much harder to create a hybrid system than it is to create a fully electronic system for meetings. So as best as you can give a heads up to staff that you may miss, that is much better because they can start kind of weeks in advance to prepare for that. But it's much harder to do a hybrid system than it is to do even a fully virtual system. So from a staff perspective, I just want us to kind of keep that in mind. If you can be here in person, try and do that. If you absolutely have to be virtual, obviously our staff will make those accommodations, but knowing ahead of time helps them out a tremendous amount. Ms. Frazier and then Ms. Bonke.
Just a quick question about the weather. When do you make a decision if you're going to cancel a meeting due to the weather? Because 40 miles down the road on 95 driving in inclement weather is not a joy. Today I hit traffic, Gary didn't hit traffic. It took me an hour and a half to get here. So when do you make a decision in terms of traffic and when you will call a meeting? So I'm not on the road and you decide to call the meeting and I have to turn around, so.
Sure, and we've never been virtual before the pandemic. So some of this is kind of new in terms of going back into session, so to speak, having come out of a state of emergency. But I guess what is protocol if there were a weather event?
We generally, we follow the Prince William County emergency declaration or closures. So when they do that notice of closures, we follow that and they do a really good job of notifying in advance.
Okay.
We don't, so that's our emphasis. And once that decision's made, if something's impending, sometimes they make the call and nothing happens. Sometimes they don't make the call and something does happen. But we are very active in trying to prevent the exact thing you're describing.
Okay.
So we're very cognizant of that. Our staff has to go home after the meeting. So we're very understanding of that 30 and 45 mile drive for a number of our employees as well.
Ms. Funky.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. In reading the bylaws, I just had a question for Sharon and really for the commissioners. On page 4 of 14, it says under item B, individual member requesting remote electronic participation on or before the day of the meeting. So when I read this earlier today, I was like, wow, that's not a lot of notice to staff if you've got to figure everything out on your end electronically. So it to me, it seems like we need to pull that back a little bit. If somebody does need to come up with some, they have a change in their schedule, that we can't let staff know the day of. I know, Ms. Lawson had an issue today. I don't know what that was, but it seems like we need to give staff a little bit more time, and then we have the ability to find an alternate to attend the meeting, but.
Sure, yeah, and I'll just say that I'll turn it over to Ms. Pendak. You know, staff will do the best they can to make those accommodations. You know, we try to have as many seated members as possible here, and if we absolutely have to go to an alternate, we will. But I think the idea is we want to make sure that there's flexibility. So we'll help to provide that flexibility because emergencies do come up. And if it's always better to have a seated member than an alternate for obvious reasons. But obviously we can move to an alternate, but I think it's always better to kind of go in that direction, Ms. Pendak.
Madam Chair, I think you have stated that correct as to the philosophy, and you could require more notice. What that would cause some of you who may have a last minute issue to then say, oh, well, I didn't give 3 days notice, so I might as well forget whether or not I can have some access. So instead, the burden, and that's why I emphasize the issue about the commission making a decision at the beginning whether participation can occur, because the staff here will do all that they can to make that possible. And if it's not possible, then they'll tell you at the beginning of the meeting, and you vote on the motion, and the person is then advised that no, they can't attend because the electronic participation can't be had. The one thing that is pretty clear from the legislation, and again, I would counter this, is that you would use the same standards for whoever on the commission says, you know, I can't participate. So you can't, if somebody says I'm not participating because I'm in a certain place and it's a family matter and you grant it, then if somebody else on the commission says, I can't participate, I'm gonna have a family matter, I'm in another place, you have an obligation to grant them the same exemption.
Okay,
So
thank you.
consistency is important.
And people love PRTC meetings, so I don't think.
So I just want to make, I'm listening to everything that's going on. It sounds like we're getting a little bit too complicated here. I mean, it's up to us. If I can't make a meeting, you call my alternate and call and say, hey, look, I know, and last minute things, that very day, I'm not gonna call you and ask you to put a phone call in or something like that so I can call in. So I think we've got 2 times a year that we can use it, correct?
Or up to 25% if you meet.
Oh, you're exactly, okay, I'm sorry. 2, okay, so I'm just thinking that, like I said, I think that the onus goes on the locality to fulfill this position. I appreciate your call all the time and asking for making stuff like that, or the email that goes out. But if I don't think I can make it, I certainly would like to call, you know, Tim or David Ross in that case. I just don't want this thing getting complicated and say, oh, the state says this, we say this. Let's keep it on the KISS route.
Well, you could conceivably decide that nobody can participate remotely. You could choose to do that, but I think it's more typical as I look at various entities across the state to allow something that is consistent with the exemptions that the General Assembly allows.
The other thing I'd like to mention, if the staff would do, if we find a person who's not doing this, you know, actually not showing up, then I think it's the responsibility of staff to get a hold of the chairman of the board, whatever locality, and let them know that. So that he can take it into his own hands or her into her own hands and find that commissioner and say, do you want this or not? And then either replace them or set them straight.
And I think Ms. Rishel has the last question or comment.
In talking about the hybrid model, now I don't know if your technical needs might be a little more intensive than what I'm realized, but Manassas Park was on the hybrid model throughout the entire pandemic. Those who were not comfortable coming in person, you know, logged in from home. The rest of us were in person. So we used GoToMeeting, even staff remoted in.
Yeah, we can still do it. It's just a real challenge for us in that it's hard to hear through the microphones, the speakers, discussion, and it's a little easier if it's how many members on council with you. With
7 plus
staff, key
8
staff,
staff, yeah.
as opposed to what it takes for us to have everyone together a little more challenging.
I see.
That's just the logistics. And we did have one hybrid meeting last September. The other challenge is then the staff is all on top of each other, working through laptops, et cetera. So that's the other complexity with it. That's just why that challenge is there.
I see, thank you.
Christina, will you please call the roll?
Victor Angry,
You've been talking for so long, what is?
So there is a motion on the floor to do the second reading and adoption of the amendments to the bylaws to basically come into compliance with what the General Assembly did to our FOIA laws.
Good job.
Andrea Bailey,
Like what he said, no.
Kenny Bodie,
Aye.
Margaret Franklin. Aye. Yesley Vega. Aye. Kim Short. Cindy Lamb. Aye. Meg Bunky.
Aye.
Pamela Saveski.
Aye.
Jeanette Richel.
Yes.
Deborah Frazier.
Aye.
Gary Skinner. Todd Horsley.
Yes.
Elizabeth Guzman.
Aye.
George Barker.
Aye.
Madam Chair, that resolution is approved.
We'll now move into item 11.2 to authorize the executive director to award a task order contract to Siddall Communications LLC for Vanpool Alliance Program Marketing Services. And this is basically to authorize to execute a contract for concentrated marketing and promotional efforts for Vanpool Alliance and TDM program. Dr. Schneider?
Yes, what she said, but the more important thing is no local funds. This is a program that really generates its revenue through a great partnership with DRPT. They have their Vanpool Virginia grant, which provides the seed money of $50,000. And then the Vanpool Alliance, we do a revenue earning through the mileage as the Vanpools accrue their miles and travel. So it's a great resource. Vanpool Alliance is not just the OmniRide part of the house. It includes the GWRC footprint for Vanpool Alliance. Anyone who participates in the Vanpool Alliance as the management of the Vanpool program in Northern Virginia is a participant, and that gives unified marketing and unified presence. So that is it, Madam Chair.
Is there a motion to approve? Madam Chair, so moved. Seconded by Supervisor Bailey, seconded by Vice Chair Richel. Is there any discussion or any questions? Christine, will you please call the roll?
Victor Angry.
Aye.
Andrea Bailey.
Aye.
Kenny Bodie.
Aye.
Margaret Franklin.
Aye.
Yesley Vega.
Aye.
Cindy Lamb.
Aye.
I know that Meg Bunky has temporarily left the room. Pamela Saveski.
Aye.
Jeanette Richel.
Yes.
Deborah Frazier.
Aye.
Gary Skinner.
Aye.
Todd Horsley.
Yes.
Elizabeth Guzman.
Yes.
George Barker.
Aye.
Madam Chair, that resolution is approved.
We'll now move into item 11.3 to authorize closed meeting of the PRTC Commission to discuss a personnel matter concerning the executive director's performance evaluation and incentives. Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, move to approve.
Moved by Supervisor Bailey.
I'm sorry, I
Need to read
just
this
need
in.
to state the statute.
Oh,
I apologize, yeah,
Yes.
publicly.
Please.
It is pursuant to 2.2-3711A1 for a personnel matter concerning the executive director's performance evaluation and incentives.
Motion made by Supervisor Bailey, seconded by Supervisor Bodie. Christine, will you please call the roll?
Victor Angry.
Aye.
Andrea Bailey.
Aye.
Kenny Bodie.
Aye.
Margaret Franklin.
Aye.
Yesley Vega.
Aye.
Cindy Lamb.
Aye.
Meg Bunky.
Aye.
Pamela Saveski.
Aye.
Jeanette Richel.
Yes.
Deborah Frazier.
Aye.
Gary Skinner.
Aye.
Todd Horsley.
Yes.
Elizabeth Guzman.
Aye.
George Barker.
Aye.
Madam Chair, that resolution is approved.
Okay, we'll now go into closed session.
And I will note that everyone in the room is a voting member tonight, so none of our commissioners have to leave the room. We're going to wait for Carl to turn off the live stream.
Good job.
He's gonna change the slide so that those at home know that we are back. And so as soon as the slide changes, we can start.
Hey, Madam Chair, you need a motion to certify that you only talked about those matters in closed meeting for which you went into closed meeting.
Is there a motion to certify closed meeting?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Sebeski. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Supervisor Bodie. Any discussion? Christine, will you call the roll?
Victor Angry,
Aye.
Andrea Bailey,
Aye.
Penny Bodie,
Aye.
Margaret Franklin,
Aye.
Leslie Vega,
Aye.
Kim Short, Cindy Lamb,
Aye.
Meg Bunky,
Aye.
Pamela Sebeski,
Aye.
Jeanette Rischel,
Yes.
Deborah Frazier,
Aye.
Gary Skinner,
Aye.
Todd Horsley,
Yes.
Elizabeth Guzman,
Aye.
George Barker.
Aye.
Madam Chair, that resolution is approved.
Okay, Ms. Panda?
Madam Chair, you have a resolution to approve the executive director's incentive measures for FY 2021, subject to some cleanup and editing by Ms. Marinette.
So movement.
Moved by.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Supervisor Bailey, is there a second?
Second.
Supervisor Bodie. Any discussion? Christine?
Victor Angry,
Aye.
Andrea Bailey,
Aye.
Penny Bodie,
Aye.
Margaret Franklin,
Aye.
Leslie Vega,
Yes.
Kim Short, Cindy Lamb,
Aye.
Meg Bunky,
Aye.
Pamela Sebeski,
Aye.
Jeanette Rischel,
Yes.
Deborah Frazier,
Aye.
Gary Skinner,
Aye.
Todd Horsley,
Yes.
Elizabeth Guzman,
Aye.
George Barker.
Aye.
Madam Chair, that resolution is approved.
Ms. Panda?
Madam Chair, you have a resolution to approve the executive director's compensation and benefits for FY 2022.
Is there a motion? Second. Motion made by Ms. Short, seconded by Ms. Sebeski. I'm sorry, Senator Barker. Any discussion? Christine, will you please call the roll?
Victor Angry,
Aye.
Andrea Bailey,
Aye.
Penny Bodie,
Aye.
Margaret Franklin,
Aye.
Leslie Vega,
Aye.
Kim Short, Cindy Lamb,
Aye.
Meg Bunky,
Aye.
Pamela Sebeski,
Aye.
Jeanette Rischel,
Yes.
Deborah Frazier,
Aye.
Gary Skinner,
Aye.
Todd Horsley,
Yes.
Elizabeth Guzman,
Aye.
George Barker.
Aye.
Madam Chair, that resolution is approved.
Ms. Panda, is there anything else?
No, ma'am.
Okay, we'll now move into item 12, Chair's time. I'd like to take this opportunity to proclaim Car-Free Day, which will be observed on September 22nd, 2021. This will encourage citizens to take the pledge to be car-free or car-light. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Ms. Sebeski, seconded by Supervisor Bailey. Are there any questions or discussion? Christine, will you please call the roll?
Victor Angry,
Aye.
Andrea Bailey,
Aye.
Penny Bodie,
Aye.
Margaret Franklin,
Aye.
Leslie Vega,
Aye.
Kim Short, Cindy Lamb,
Aye.
Meg Bunky,
Aye.
Pamela Sebeski,
Aye.
Jeanette Rischel,
Yes.
Deborah Frazier,
Aye.
Gary Skinner,
Aye.
Todd Horsley,
Yes.
Elizabeth Guzman,
Aye.
George Barker.
Aye.
Madam Chair, that resolution is approved.
Thank you. I also just want to acknowledge the opening of the Western Maintenance Facility. We had a great turnout by all of our stakeholders, had many members of the General Assembly, as well as our local board of supervisors, Mayor Rischel with Manassas Park, members from the city of Manassas. We had a great turnout. Just want to thank again MBTA and Chair Phyllis Randall, as well as Monica Backman, who is the executive director, for all the work that they put into that project over the past several years, and really just providing a beautiful facility to help complement the Eastern facility. So thank you, Dr. Schneider, for leading that effort. Thank you for all of our employees who helped to open that facility. If you have not been there, you should definitely go out. We had a great time, and it really is beautiful. Make sure you get a tour of the facility. So thank you to all of those that worked so diligently to get that open. I also want to acknowledge the 35th anniversary of PRTC and Omni Ride, and just
again, thank all of the employees that helped to make what was then a new organization blossom into what it is now. We're one of the most important regional transportation hubs in Northern Virginia. And so what we do here is very important to the entire region. Want to thank PRTC and Keolis for inviting me out to commemorate the 35th anniversary. Had some great tacos, had some great hot dogs. I think over the past couple of months, they've held more events with food than ever before. So I think I gained a couple of pounds from that, but I just want to thank all of our employees. I think it was mentioned earlier, when we come to those events, when we get to interact with Keolis employees and PRTC, it really does mean a lot because it shows that we are in fact interested in what PRTC does and what our employees are doing and their well-being. And so if you haven't been to an event yet, I really want to encourage you all to come out to whatever the next event may be and just say hello, grab a bite to eat. Even if you're there for 15 minutes, it really does go a long way. So thank you to Dr. Schneider and Keolis for partnering on all of the events that we've had. So just want to give a shout out to PRTC and just say that everyone's doing a great job as we kind of make our way shifting out of the pandemic. And with that, I will go to item 13, other business commissioners time. So we will start with Ms. Short and go around. Nothing for the group. Mr. Skinner?
Bob, I got a question for you, please. With the new built facility, are you gonna share your time between, or are you gonna stay here? What's the plan?
Yes, my office is relocated out there already, and I'm here, I do Woodbridge Wednesdays. So every Wednesday I'm here, and then I'm here often throughout the week. So just I'm between both facilities on a regular basis.
Thank you. That's all, Madam Chair.
I'll defer.
Madam Chair, I do have a few things to recommend in regards to the line of questioning that Delegate Guzman raised in terms of mandating vaccines for us, actually anybody really that works here. If anything does change, because Madam Chair, you said that you were going to closely continue to monitor the situation. Should anything change, can you also report back as to what the consequences would be should one of the employees not want to partake in whatever is mandated, again, if that does happen, and how would such, I guess, consequences impact daily operations of this organization? That's all I have. Thank you.
That was really great. I appreciate you doing that out for, thank you.
I would also like to say that I hope that the PRTC does not mandate the vaccine. I know that it's not a standard medical procedure in the classical sense of the word, but it is invasive. I have heard this country compared to other nations around the world when it comes to forcing their residents to take the vaccine. I object to those comparisons because, first of all, those nations do not have a Bill of Rights that protect the civil liberties of their residents, but we do. We have a Bill of Rights. So I hope that mandating doesn't come to that. Thank you.
I'm gonna just say that Manassas this weekend, we have a festival on Saturday, Beers, Bands, and Barbecue. It's from 12 to 6. You can go online to Historic Manassas and get tickets. And I hope to see many of you there. It's an outdoor event, so it makes it COVID friendly.
Just very quickly, wanted to echo the comments of the chair in regards to the great work that the folks at both Keolis and PRTC have been doing to sort of navigate these sort of stormy waters. The Western facility is a great facility. I think it'll really take us to the next level of service. It was a great event for us. Even you guys managed well all the electrical issues that happened right before. So wanted to give you guys kudos on that. And I just can't highlight enough how we have living, breathing human beings that are helping us day in and day out navigate this crisis. get folks in our different communities in and out of our communities every single day. And that really keeps our economy moving, keeps our community moving. And so I can't highlight that enough. So just wanted to put that out there to the ether that at least for my portion of this board, I appreciate all of them. I appreciate the folks that are leading the way on that. So thank you so much, Madam Chair. It's great to see everyone in person.
I thought, Madam Chair, I spoke nothing.
I do want to say that DRPT continues to work on our Springfield to Quantico enhanced public transportation study. I know that's a topic of interest to a lot of people here. We do have a report due to the General Assembly on December 1st. We are coming into the final stages of this. After working kind of internally in August, we are going to ramp back up our outreach in September. We have an elected officials briefing scheduled for September 16th. You all should have an invite to that. And then we do have 2 public meetings, and we've decided to do these virtual. We had hoped to do them in person, but we're going to do them virtual. They are on September 21st and 23rd. They'll be from 7 to 9 p.m. so people can choose either one, whichever works for them. And those will be our final round of public meetings for the study. And then, like I said, we do have a report due December 1st to the General Assembly, and we'll have a public comment period. It won't be another public meeting, but we'll have it online for public comment. But you should start seeing a lot of publicity for our public meetings, and we'll be asking you to send these out to your mailing list and your constituents as well.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Moved by Supervisor Vega, seconded by Supervisor Bodie. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? See you all next month.
Yes, please.
Don't worry.
Good comment. And I also agree. Good to see you. Take care.
If not, I'll just hold out.
Yeah.